Okay. Wow, we have so many answers here. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share those results with the room here. Looks like the majority of you, or no, excuse me, the majority of people have not ever looked themselves up on AI. So that's a great action item. By the end of today, you will be chomping at the bit to search yourself. So that'll be done and dusted. Looks like a healthy amount have searched and like what they saw. Some people searched and didn't like what they saw. And a few folks here are just learning now that they can do that. And that's a great place to start also. And we'll get you all ramped up. So we're all working from like the same area of expertise by the end of today's session. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and we'll get started with today's content.
Awesome. So again, welcome everyone for those who just joined. My name is Katelyn Bodkin. I'm the head of content at SevenRooms, also the editor of the Herd newsletter for those of you who may have come in from my last email. But I'm super excited to be here today. And for those of you who may not know SevenRooms is a reservation CRM and marketing platform, and we also power DoorDash reservations. I've been in the content SEO marketing world for 10 plus years and got the start of my career actually in restaurant marketing. So very excited to be here and joined by my colleague, Erica. Erica, if you want to give yourself a brief introduction.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Erica Hayes. I am from the DoorDash side of the house. I work as an integrated marketing manager, specifically focused on DoorDash commerce platform. And that's our suite of tools that are designed to help restaurants grow direct online ordering through their own channels. So website, social media, your own app. And that's actually why part of the reason why I'm super excited about today's topic because when you apply some of these best practices that we're going to be going over today, AI search can also help you drive more direct orders. So there's, some cold hard cash going on there too. So let's get into it.
Awesome. Okay, so today's topic, how AI is changing the way customers find restaurants. I feel like right now you probably hear AI, AI, AI all the time, right? But there's this big question mark that almost every business across every industry has, which is how do we show up in the answers that LLMs or search engine optimization and AI tools actually show. So that's really what we're going to focus on today is how to get your restaurant optimized in different places so that it can show up and answer search engine optimizations.
Amazing. Yeah. So just to give a high level of where we're headed today. So we're going to give you a live demo of how AI actually surfaces restaurant recommendations, where it's pulling that information from, and the specific things that you need to be doing to show up in those results. We're going to finish out with a live Q&A. So please feel free to ask your burning questions throughout today's session. Please go ahead and use the Q&A functionality at the bottom of your webinar window. Because we're focused on the slides, we're going to be focused. We're not going to be super focused on the chat, although we do encourage you to keep this amazing energy and conversation going. But when it's Q&A time, we'll be just taking questions from the Q&A functionality. You can submit those at any time during today's session. Great. Let's kick it off.
Awesome. So this metric here, so this actually was pulled from our 2026 Restaurant Trends Report and kind of the idea that kicked off this whole conversation of how important this is right now. 22% of consumers have used AI to choose a restaurant. And this is primarily most prevalent among millennials over Gen Z, which actually kind of surprised me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that number might not seem huge, but it's destined to grow. According to SEO Roundtable, Google's AI overviews now appear in roughly half of Google searches in the US, up from about 15% a year ago. And that trend is likely to increase over the next few years, making AI search more and more prevalent and a bigger part of the user experience. So that is why it's so important that you're here today so that you can already take steps to get ahead. But with all of this in mind, from one millennial to another, Katelyn, I'm curious, have you ever used AI to pick a restaurant?
Oh yeah. To be honest, I'm a little AI obsessed, I'm not gonna lie. I use AI. I actually really like it when I'm traveling, specifically. Like if I don't know a city or a place that I'm going. I went to Scotland a few months ago with my husband, and we kind of used ChatGPT to honestly plan the entire trip, in addition to like what are the restaurants we should visit as we booked our itinerary. So I find AI to be an extremely good tool for that, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, honestly, now that you're saying it, I did the same exact thing when I went to Hawaii last month. I was like, I don't have time to plan this trip, but you know who
Yeah.
does?
Right.
AI. Amazing. Cool. So let's get into what AI tools us millennials and everyone else are actually using.
This is yeah, this to me is not surprising. I mean, ChatGPT is the OG of the LLMs. Like they were the ones that kind of started a couple years ago. And then, as Erica just said, Google's Gemini in AI mode. It's becoming more and more prevalent across major search. So whether you like AI or not, it's going to start to become part of the everyday experience, at least if you use Google, which is still a very common way people search for things. So with that
Okay.
being said, do we want to jump in and do a live demo of like what this looks like across these tools?
Oh, yeah. And I already have it pulled up, luckily.
Sweet.
Cool. Let's start at the top here so we can see what that prompt was. So, for today's example, we're using best restaurant for outdoor dining NYC. So, we've started with a fairly specific prompt. And let's pause there for a moment because, yep, I asked AI for the best. How on earth would it know what the best is? It's a robot, right? So here's the thing, it does not know what the best is. Instead, it's going to use signals that already exist on the internet to help suggest something to me with the most confidence possible.
Right.
So
And just so you know too, this is Google's AI mode, if for those of you
AI
who may
mode.
not have been in here yet.
Yes, you can still do a regular Google search, but this is their AI mode, which is gaining popularity. And so skimming through these results, you'll see here they are bucketed into like different categories. We have waterfront and scenic views. We have lush backyard gardens and patios. I love that. And then you'll also see that there are descriptions for each. So these are pretty like descriptive little blurbs here about the experience that you can expect to have at each of these different restaurants. Um, and yeah, so those are kind of like the main things we're looking at. We have the ratings up here. Katelyn, do you want to go a little bit more
Yeah.
into what sources we're seeing?
Yeah. So, what's interesting here is Erica mentioned earlier that AI is pulling information from different sources, right? It can't know this on its own. It has to kind of scour the web for the most trusted, relevant sources to pull this information in. So you can actually look in the overviews that they are actually pulling this from, surprise, surprise, a Google business listing, but also Instagram, right? So when you think about if I'm a restaurant with dining views in Manhattan or Brooklyn, I'm sorry, this is what the prompt was, and I'm not showing up here, I might think to myself, is my Google profile updated? Do I have a good Google profile? Am I on Instagram? Am I talking about my private spaces on Instagram? Because these are clearly sources that the LLM is using to pull information from in order to populate these answers. And if you look on the right, if you hit show all, they're from a variety of sources over the internet. So you see third-party reservation platform like Open Table, you see Eater New York, right? This is also media publication. So again, as I'm going through this and I want to be listed for this result, I'm thinking, what are the sources I need to get on in order to be in here? And now if you want to pop over, I think what's interesting as well to pop over to ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and this is a very similar experience, though it's a little bit different. So each LLM is going to surface results just a little bit differently. So here we have, again, you have the description, and you look at the way that they're describing each and every restaurant, kind of some patterns and some commonalities here of maybe the way that they are bringing in sort of all of these descriptions. And then again, if you look to the sources that they're pulling this information from, at the top, I want to point out Reddit. So Reddit's something we're going to talk about a little bit, but Reddit has increasingly become a primary source for pulling in information about restaurants. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But kind of similar here, right? We see Resi here, third-party platform, Eater New York, publications. So again, thinking about if I'm not on this list, where might I want to have a presence so that I can start to be pulled into these answers? And really quick, Erica, if we could go back to the Google AI mode, one thing I wanted to shout out was see how the availability is also being pulled in. If you click on one of those, that's being pulled from Reserve with Google. So if you take reservations and you have an integrated Reserve with Google, this is an opportunity for you because LLMs are starting to pull in actual inventory for reservations. So this is an area you definitely want to get set up if you don't have it set up yet. And we have some resources in the chat on how to do that as well when we have our resources section as well. So we'll be dropping that in.
Amazing. Well, now we're back to the deck, away from our amazing little demo there. Thanks for walking us through that, Katelyn. And we're going to move on into an area that's a little bit more tactical. How the heck do you get into those results?
Exactly. So AEO, as you guys may have heard in the past, SEO, which was search engine optimization, they're now calling this answer engine optimization. And so this is really a competition to be in a handful of answers, direct answers that the LLMs are saying out loud. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell you, like Erica just mentioned, how to go about looking at how LLMs perceive your restaurant and sort of your category, and then looking for the sources and some of the changes you can make on some of those sources that will get you included in these answers. So we can go to the next one here. Cool. So like we just walked through, I think it was like 40% of you maybe haven't done this before, but after this call or at some point when you have the bandwidth, audit your presence. So we have kind of two ways to do this. So whether you take Google AI mode or you want to take ChatGPT, just type your restaurant name in and see what it says about your restaurant. See what it says. And also pay attention to the sources. What sources is it actually pulling to bring in those descriptions? And pay attention to, is the information right? Because again, it's pulling in stuff from Reddit, it's pulling in things from reviews, things like that. So you want to, just make sure, what is it saying about my restaurant? And then do the same thing for your competitors, right? What are the sources they're being pulled in from? What's the descriptions they have? And then lastly, to look at more non-brand, we call kind of searches, which are like the category searches. So if I'm an Italian restaurant in Chicago, I might want to type in best Italian restaurant Chicago, see what comes up, or best Italian restaurant with private dining, or whatever it is that kind of could describe your restaurant. And just you're looking for patterns here. What are the sources that LLMs are using, and where are some opportunities where I can optimize those sources or add in some sources that I may not have thought of before? And that's where we're really going to spend the majority of the time today, are the most common sources.
Cool. So, at the risk of being a broken record here, AI pulls from a lot of different places. Like we saw, there was Eater, the infatuation, so many different places, but there are some commonalities amongst the results. So that's where we're going to spend our time today. Like Katelyn said, we encourage you to audit your own and see what sources it's pulling from. But these 4 areas are going to be a really, really solid place for you to start. So just to go over this, we're going to talk about third-party listings, your Google business profile, your own website, and then we're going to talk about Reddit and social as well. So let's start with third-party sites, including delivery and reservation marketplaces. So your Yelps, TripAdvisors, DoorDash, Deliveroo if you're in the UK. These are sites that are already trusted by AI. So your profiles, you need to keep your profiles current there, because AI may use this as a source to surface you in results. And sometimes this can be really valuable because your website, your restaurant likely has a website, but it may not carry the same level of authority as some of these third-party listings. So think of this as sort of like a supercharge boost using other websites to surface information about your own restaurant. We want to go over some concrete actions that you can take today. And fortunately, most of them are pretty easy. So first, on these third-party listings, you need to make sure that you have everything filled out. So cuisine type, if you're good for groups, if you have outdoor seating, maybe you have dietary options. Like we saw in our searches across AI mode and ChatGPT, the results can often hinge on restaurant experiences and descriptions. So filling out your profiles completely helps AI build out those descriptions. Then next up, you need to respond to your reviews. And it's not just thanks for visiting, a specific reply like, hey, since you were last here, we fixed our patio heaters. That's going to give AI something really helpful, fresh, and useful to point to. And then you're going to want to make sure that you're using the same descriptions of your restaurant everywhere. So make sure across, Yelp and TripAdvisor and DoorDash, the cuisine type is the same, the vibe words are the same. If your profiles say different things, that may be exactly why you show up well on an AI tool, one AI tool and not another. So you want to make sure that across the board, you're saying the same things over and over again. That signals to AI that the information is accurate.
And that's a really good point, Erica. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to
Oh,
make
you're good.
a quick point here. And I think it's a bit of a mindset shift, right? Which is people are increasingly using LLMs to surface direct answers. So when you're thinking about optimizing in all these places in adding details, it's not just for the user anymore. It's for the LLM as well, so that they can pull in the information to eventually surface to the. So it's just a mindset shift that when you're going through this process, it's just, okay, this is for user, but also I need to make sure that the LLM is going to pick this up at some point as well.
Yes, absolutely. We're writing for humans and robots. So a
Exactly.
little bit, it's crazy time. 2026 is wild.
Yes, it's the world of search is changing. And I also want to
It's
just make a
wild.
quick point back there, which is we recognize that being listed across all these third-party platforms, it's a lot of work, right? And it's very hard to manage. Like if I'm listed on DoorDash and Resi and Open Table just to kind of have my reservations out there. Just a quick call out that SevenRooms just launched a free tool to whether you're a SevenRooms customer or not called Channel Connect. And actually, what it does is allow you to have reservation inventory across all the major booking partners, and then it synchronizes the inventory and guest data into one system of record. So you're not juggling manual syncs and everything from different reservation partners. You have it in kind of one area. So just wanted to call that out. We'll also link that in the resources if it's something that you've been kind of wanting to experiment with to get on a different platform or to have a broader presence. This is now possible with Channel Connect.
Ooh, I love that. Amazing.
So switching gears here a little bit, Google Business Profile. So as we showed you in Google AI mode, having a Google Business Profile is very important. And that's nothing new, right? Since the dawn of search engines, like we've always said, have a Google Business Profile. But what Google trusts the most is comprehensiveness, quality, and freshness, right? So you may have a Google Business Profile, but perhaps you kicked it off 3 years ago and you haven't touched it. Or, and this isn't really important to make sure that it's up to date, it's accurate, because Google is more and more surfacing answers based on what's in the Google profile. So, if you have had a change, like maybe you updated your hours, added takeout or delivery, or added a private dining room, but haven't updated that, you're going to miss out on being referenced in those answers. And that's a best practice for Google search and for LLM discovery as well. So if you go to the next slide, Erica, we can dive into a couple of just quick checks, best practices here. So first and foremost, filling out the categories. Again, if you have a Google profile, you likely did this, but did you use all of them? Because there are, I think, up to 9 now. So you can actually be more comprehensive by filling out a bunch of different categories that describe your business. Maybe you offer group bookings, maybe you have a patio, a lounge, whatever it is, make sure it's pulled in as a subcategory. As Erica mentioned, and we're going to repeat this a couple of times, which is responding to reviews. So if someone, dines and leaves a great review that says, hey, we dined on your patio, we had enjoyed the view, we had oysters, we loved it. Instead of just saying, thank you so much for the great review, we're so happy you came in, be descriptive, because the more descriptions you can give, the more fodder you're giving to the LLMs to actually speak about what's the experience is like. So maybe you say, "Thanks so much for coming in. We're so happy you enjoyed the views of the Boston Harbor. We source our oysters from Wellfleet every single day, and they're the freshest around. We're so glad that you enjoyed them," right? So adding little tidbits of information. And again, spending a little bit more time here can definitely be worth it, but there's always using AI to help draft those responses, right? AI can be used for a lot of different things. So just want to call that out in there that this is now possible. So the last thing I want to call out, and I want to do a quick show, Erica. Can you pull up The Girl and the Goat? Love The Girl
Got
and the
it.
Goat in
Yep.
Chicago. But they actually use this feature called Posts and Updates, which is on Google Profiles. And so they actually add in an event section feature, like every time there's a holiday or they have a special event. And so basically, this is a really great way to kind of keep your profile fresh, to update it, and add an additional place for people to book. So this is yet again another feature that Google has. And also is important why you should refresh and just revisit your Google profile once in a while because they're always announcing and adding new features as well.
Amazing.
All right.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay,
Website.
let's go on to websites. This is selfishly probably my favorite topic here. I focus a lot on the websites that we create for restaurants here at DoorDash. But aside from that, I just really want to stress that your website is one of the main sources that AI tools trust most. So keeping it current really matters. Obviously, that's also just a best practice too, right? You want to make sure that your website is surfacing the right information to customers. So your website should, of course, offer a great experience to customers and make it easier for them to learn about you, to place an online order, or make a reservation if you offer that. I just want to stress, obviously, if you don't offer reservations, you don't need a reservation button. But if you do, this would be a really important place to make sure that folks can easily make a reservation with you, or again, place an online order. Um, Keep in mind that, and this is not meant to be discouraging, but keep in mind that 68% of searches actually end without a click, meaning that somebody will search something and then they actually never even click on a website to learn more. That is because they're using what Google has surfaced to them to make their decision without ever clicking on your website. So, kind of going back to what Katelyn and I referenced before, you want to make sure that when people land on your site, it's a great and accurate experience, but also keep in mind the robots are reading your site and they're surfacing that information. And sometimes folks might not ever even see your website. Um, yes, let's go on into some action items for you. So to make your site really easy for AI to understand, you'll want to follow these three main tips. So first, make sure that you have an FAQ section with questions that people really ask. Is there parking nearby? Do you take reservations? Is there outdoor seating? And try to write these as like a direct question and answer, not buried in a paragraph. If somebody is asking AI directly if your restaurant has a parking lot, these FAQs will help AI surface the correct answer. So think about like natural language. What kind of questions would people be asking? Those are the exact questions you'll want in your FAQ section. Next up, you need to make sure that your menu is really easy to find and read. That means it can't just be a photo or a PDF. A menu AI can actually read will help AI understand what you serve, what your items are called. And as with everything else we mentioned, you want to make sure that your menu and your website is super up to date and matches your menu across your third party listings. So again, to kind of echo what Katelyn mentioned, we recognize it's really hard to have your menu in a zillion different places. So something that's really cool is that when you use online ordering, which is our online ordering solution available with DoorDash Commerce Platform, that syncs directly with your marketplace profile, so the DoorDash app. So if you make an update on the DoorDash app, it will reflect on your website, ensuring that your information is accurate across both places. Um, Finally, and again, this is just another best practice here, you want to make sure your photos and your hours are up to date. Again, I really sound like a broken record today, but consistency across as many places as possible is really going to help AI understand uh, that the information is helpful and accurate.
Yep. Yes. And having an HTML menu, I just saw that come through, is better than a static PDF for sure. Also, I want to call out for those restaurants who have events or private events for the holidays. I know it's August, but the holiday
I'm already
season.
getting Christmas ads, I
The
swear.
holiday season is going to come up and it's around the corner. If you have private event pages or your group booking pages, now is the time to refresh them. Make sure that they are super detailed about the vibe, the spaces, right? The how much the capacity is, the pricing, the menus, the photos. Even adding a private event FAQ on those pages is very beneficial to what Erica just mentioned. And then same thing, if you're using the Seven Rooms events and experiences pages, the more detail you can add on there, the better. So just wanted to shout that out because again, it's around the corner, y'all.
It's coming. It's coming for us. I need to find a Halloween costume first, I swear.
Okay, so I want to spend like 1 minute here on this slide because technical checks that you'll want to have your web person do, because all of the tactics that we just went through aren't going to mean anything if an LLM can't crawl or read your website. So two things. Restaurant schema markup is something you're going to want to reach out to your web agency or whoever handles your website to make sure that you have restaurant schema markup added into your code. Okay, so this is a behind the scenes setting that helps AI read your hours, your menu, your prices correctly. If this is not set up, AI can skip over you. Now, I will say the good news is most major like website platforms, including I know DCP's white labeled website platform, offers this as well, but this is something you'll just want to make sure. And again, we're going to provide a checklist at the end of this that has a lot of these recommendations built in. So whoever handles your website, you can hand this to them and say, please check that this is prevalent on my site. And the other piece is a robots.txt file. So essentially you want to make sure this is a text file that basically tells search crawlers and AI crawlers which parts of your website are available for them to crawl versus they should not crawl. Now, again, most of you will have this will be fine that you won't have this blocked. But if you've had any big changes, maybe you've had some customizations done to your website, or maybe you redesign your website and they, kind of blocked some of part of it for some reason at some point and forgot to turn that off, there could be parts of your site that you're not allowing the LLMs to crawl by accident. Good news on this one, you can actually check yourself. So if you go into ChatGPT and you say, analyze the robot.txt file for put in your website URL and see if it's blocking any of the LLMs like ChatGPT, Google, Perplexity, Claude, it can actually tell you if you have an issue with this. And if you do, you can then pass this off to your web person to go and fix for you. So again, a little bit technical, getting in the weeds there, but I just wanted to call it out because it's very important to make sure if you're doing all this work that your website is going to, going to actually be crawled and read by the LLMs.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, Caitlin. I feel like as we were putting these slides together, we were like, yeah, sometimes if you don't know how the AI works or how you're showing up, you just
You
ask
just
AI. It's kind of a
exactly.
circular motion here. But it's the amount of conversations I have with ChatGPT about how ChatGPT works. It really should be studied.
It's
Really,
pretty
it's
transparent, I will say. It's pretty transparent.
they'll tell you. Don't worry. But to Caitlin's point, I do want to just, a shameless little plug here, but we know that this slide is honestly like really scary. I am scared by it, I'll be honest. But you don't have to be. DoorDash Commerce Platform, we offer, like Caitlin mentioned, white labeled branded websites that accomplish all of this. It's like you can literally set it up in 10 minutes. It's actually crazy. Somebody walked me through it. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't even have a restaurant, but I already have a website. And it's really, really quick and it does follow all of these best practices. So if maybe you don't have an agency or you just don't want to manage your website yourself, like we are so happy to do that for you.
Yes.
Cool. So actually, I said website was my favorite, but honestly, I might have to switch it to Reddit. I'm very excited about
The
this
Wild
slide.
West of the internet.
Truly the Wild West, a black box, if you will. But over time, it has become a true answer engine for life hacks, crowdsourcing tips for very tricky life situations. In fact, tons of people, including myself, I'll go into Google and I'll type something in and I'll stick the word Reddit at the end to make sure that I'm getting results that are highly relevant from real people and are really helpful. Not gonna lie, before this, I searched how to look my best on Zoom. Reddit.
Nailed it,
Everybody tell me it
Erica.
worked.
Nailed
Did it
it.
work? Oh my gosh, I hope so. But that is why it's no surprise that Reddit is one of the primary places that AI pulls from to source really highly relevant answers. In fact, Google inked a $60 million licensing deal with Reddit in 2024 to feed this data into its AI overviews. So that means Reddit needs to be part of your AEO strategy. But it does require a bit more finesse than some of the other areas that we covered. So it's no secret, Reddit users are highly sensitive to posts that seem promotional. That's why before you start posting anything, you really just need to find places where people are posting about your restaurant or just areas where it would be natural for people to talk about your restaurant. So search for your restaurant on Reddit to find out what diners are saying or where competitors are being mentioned. A really great place to start is to just search your city, followed by the word food. A lot of cities have like their own subreddits, and you can see what people are talking about. Maybe they're looking for recommendations. Maybe they're there to complain. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully not. Maybe they're looking for the best outdoor patio in Brooklyn. Who knows? So those could be great places for
Yeah.
you to interact with people. And again, you don't want to Reddit users are very sensitive to promotional posts. So I would recommend like just being forthcoming and saying, hey, I own this restaurant. We have an awesome patio. We just got new heaters. We have a happy hour. Would love to see you there. Like be
Yeah.
really helpful. And like Katelyn mentioned, include some helpful wording in there as well. But again, no need to be secretive. You just want to show up in places where your recommendation is going to be legitimately very helpful.
And also
Um,
where, Erica, I just want to, where we
yeah,
did
yeah,
those
yeah.
searches in the LLMs. So again, if you're going through the audit where you're typing your restaurant into the LLM or you're typing your category, you saw how that Reddit listing, that source pulled up. Click into that. See who's being listed, see what they're saying. That's a really great way to say, okay, this is a specific query and it's already using Reddit. Can I get my restaurant kind of listed into that Reddit? And maybe your staff, you task them with going in and doing Reddit posts and kind of watching. It's also really good to monitor because Reddit, if AI is pulling in Reddit responses, it sometimes may not be the most relevant either. So it's another good reason to kind of keep your eye on those Reddit posts that mention your restaurant for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like honestly, we could do like a full webinar just on Reddit.
Yeah.
If that sounds interesting to anyone, actually, just drop it in the chat. Maybe let us know if that's something that you would attend or you would find interesting. Also, feel free to pitch us any topics. We're all ears here.
Yeah, for sure.
But great.
Oh, okay. Well, we made it. I know that was a ton of information. We've got a lot, we had a lot here, a lot of material, a lot of good tips. But we're actually going to be sharing, like we mentioned, this checklist for you. So we're going to have the checklist that kind of goes through all the action items and the tips that we recommended today. And then we're going to be providing you with an AI prompt where it will go in and analyze the restaurant or your restaurant against your competitors and a bunch of different prompts, and it'll actually show you all the resources and tell you where the gaps are. So you'll definitely want to get your hands on this, which we'll be sharing. And I think, Erica, it's in the resources section.
Yep, it is in the resources section, and we're also going to be sharing it via email later today. I think I mentioned this already. You're going to get an email with the recording of today's session, this checklist and the prompts, and some other resources that we've covered today as well. So it's all coming your way, and it's super actionable. We want to just make sure that everything that you've learned today, you can apply really, really easily.
Yes.
So now it is that time, Katelyn. We are going to be put to the test to see if we can answer some questions from the crowd here. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, please submit your questions via the Q&A functionality. That will just help us surface questions to the top and organize them on our end. I'll wait a second or two here to see if any come through. But just go ahead and submit those if you have them.
The
Ooh,
one about
okay.
the webinar being a weekly thing that someone just put in the chat, actually. We are going to be doing these more frequently for sure. So more information coming on that, but we're going to be partnering up a lot more often. So you'll be seeing us more often as well, if you'd like.
Yeah, no, definitely. We do webinars every single week. And then, yeah, Katelyn is joining me, or I'm joining her even on some of them. So we have a ton of great webinar content. But as far as questions coming in, okay, what is different about traditional Google search versus AI search? Ooh,
Ooh.
juicy. Do you know, Caitlin?
Well, yes. I mean, I think it's, well, yes. I mean, it's what we kind of talked about before, right? Traditional search, traditional SEO is you're optimizing for a search engine results page that has a bunch of 10 blue links, right, across the internet. And searchers are having to go in, click into them. They're having to make the decisions themselves and then take the next move. AI is taking a lot of that work out of the diner journey or the consumer journey, and they're now surfacing those answers directly. So, what's interesting is a lot of the tactics that we walked you through today aren't necessarily super new. Having a Google business profile, right? This just becomes more and more prevalent with AI. Making sure that your website is optimized for search, for crawlability. This is something that should be, you should have anyways. So again, it's really just the way that the LLMs are now surfacing the answers and then the behavior, which people are actually reading this and then they're going straight to the website and in booking a reservation. So it's a little less of like the click around and more direct action right after, which is really interesting. So it's really, again, that's the biggest change.
Cool.
All right. Let's see.
Okay, what else is coming in?
Okay, let's see. Eric, I have one here. I don't know if you want to take it about, looks like if something is wrong, the AI surfaces. How do you fix that?
Ooh, I like this question. I know that's like the biggest fear, right? That like AI is just like telling people the wrong thing. But fortunately, there are steps you can take. It's like pretty relevant to what we went over today, actually. So I would encourage you to look at the sources that AI is pulling the incorrect information from. And as much as you have control over those, so likely, your third party listings, your website, all the places that we went over today, just make sure they're correct, make sure they're accurate across the board. But really taking a look and seeing where they're pulling from. Honestly, like if somebody wrote about your restaurant on their blog and it's wrong, email them. What's the worst that could happen, right? You just want to make sure that all of as many sources as possible are telling that same story. So starting with the
Yep,
sources and correcting, that's going to be your best bet.
exactly. All right. Looks like we have one
Cool.
about, oh, what metrics should you measure for AI traffic?
Ooh.
I can take that one. I'm in deep in the weeds with AEO all day, every day for 7 rooms, so I know. So basically, there are a handful of tools out there now that actually will measure AI visibility, sentiment, things like that. Those are separate paid tools. But there are actually two metrics that you probably have in your wheelhouse today that you can measure right now. So if you're using Google Analytics, GA4, to measure your website traffic, within the traffic acquisition report, you actually can see how many sessions or how much traffic that the LLMs are referring to your restaurant. So that's something that if you have GA4, you can go in and look at that today. So that gives you one good snapshot. And the thing that I mentioned before, when we talk about search traffic and the way that people find your restaurant, there are two kind of ways within that they come in. Branded traffic, which means they know your restaurant, they typed it into Google, and they came in from a branded search term. And so they clicked on your website. The other is non-brand, which is more of the category search, which is like best Italian restaurant Chicago. They see your restaurant, they click in. With LLMs, because that they're surfacing the answers directly, people are then going into Google, they're typing the restaurant in and coming in through a branded search. So a lot of companies are starting to see their branded search traffic go through the roof, which is really interesting. So you might start to see that. So those are kind of two different ways to kind of get early indicators that the LLMs are definitely doing the job of sending you some recommendations.
Ooh, I love that. Referral traffic. We love it. Okay, I actually, unfortunately, I think we're at time on questions. We had a lot that came through that were honestly pretty similar. So I hope that your question did get answered through some of the things that we just went over. But I do just want to close out with this final slide here. We want to thank you so much for spending even just a small part of your day with us. And we hope that you're walking away with some really actionable tips and that AI feels a little less scary. And there are certain things that you can actually pin down and fix this week. But if you did find this topic very interesting, we're doing AI related webinars all month. So I would encourage you to join me next week. It's just going to be me, no Katelyn. So sorry, everyone. But it's going to be same time, same place. You can head over to the resources section to sign up. We're going to be talking about 10 ways restaurants can use AI to save time. So now we're stepping away from how customers use AI, and now we're focusing on you to see how you can speed up your day. So, like I mentioned, it's in the resources section. I'm also going to send out an email with all of these great links later today. So you will not miss it. You will be able to sign up. And then I want to share one final pretty boring piece of housekeeping after all the fun things we went over today, which is that on your way out, you are going to see a survey from us. It really shouldn't take you more than about a minute to fill out. If you could just fill that out, it would be so helpful to Katelyn and I. We want to
Yes.
know what kind of topics you want to see. Tell us a little bit more
Yeah.
about your restaurant so that we can continue to make great content for you guys. So that is all we have. Thank you so, so, so much and have a great rest of your day.